It's easy to think of classic multiplayer games and modes when we remember first-person shooters, FPS, games, but the genre is full of captivating single-player campaigns with memorable stories. From the confines of the galaxy to the literal pits of hell, and anywhere in between, these are the best FPS campaigns in history. Or at least our favorites, of course. 10. Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. Call of Duty emerged to tackle the genre's dominant series in the early 2000s, Medal of Honor, but in 2007 it became Activision's billion-dollar baby thanks to Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare. The single-player campaign mode of this game became the role model for action game campaigns from that moment on, and rightly so. The story of Modern Warfare advances at a dizzying pace, in a tremendously entertaining journey from beginning to end, with some of the most memorable levels of the entire franchise. Call of Duty campaigns throughout its history usually vary from those that are fantastic to those that are forgettable at best, but it is difficult not to see the Call of Duty 4: Modern Warfare as the best of them all. 9. Halo 3. Halo 3 allowed players to reach the end of the trilogy with an exciting conclusion. By ending Halo 2's dual perspective campaign, Halo 3 proposes Bungie's characteristic first-level shootings in a series of missions. His campaign is able to move skillfully between small-scale combat and larger areas, always maintaining tension and emotion. We also add the exciting missions with vehicles. It was very complicated to live up to two incredible games, but Halo 3 lands with the same force as a plasma grenade in a grunt. 8. Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal took everything that made Doom's resurgence in 2016 incredible and added many more factors to the demonic equation. Their speed and insane confrontations do not leave a single second of rest. Doom Eternal looks like a musical game that rewards you by executing all the right moves at the right time. Her story goes a little unnoticed when she is buried between audio and text records, but don't let that stop you. If you're looking for a campaign of between 10 and 15 hours full of adrenaline with an impressive level design with a spectacular soundtrack, look no further. Doom Eternal. 7. Bioshock. From its first minutes, Bioshock knows how to make it known that a memorable trip awaits you, even if that trip begins with a plane crash. There is no shortage of spectacular sequences with one of the most memorable stories in the history of video games. And with one of the most famous twists as well. Bioshock is a game composed of beautifully orchestrated and shocking moments. The game mixes and combines different types of weapon, which ensures that encounters with enemies are always different. Its incredible retro-futuristic design, sensitivity and mysterious narrative are just some of the factors that make it one of the best campaigns in the history of FPS. Before it was a masterpiece and now it still is. 6. Halo: Combat Evolved. When Halo: Combat Evolved was released in 2001, the Master Chief seemed ready to take his place along with other faceless action heroes typical of the 80s and 90s. But Halo quickly revealed a universe of incredible ambition, representing a massive war between humans, religious fanatics and a plague that destroys the known civilization. The original campaign took players through a beautiful and mysterious world, renouncing the moldy browns and grey color palettes of the past in favor of greens, neon purples and blue skies. This epic work of science fiction by Bungie was a success with good reason. With Halo: Combat Evolved, the studio not only revolutionized FPS, but also laid the cornerstone with which it built one of the most ambitious and lasting space operas in the history of the medium. 5. Wolfenstein the New Colossus. Wolfenstein the New Colossus is the creme de la creme of neck-crushing and killing Nazis, and is one of the most magnificent single-player shooting games in history. Continuing the events of the Old Blood and the New Order, the New Colossus moves the action to the Nazi-occupied United States of America, where B.J. Blazkowicz and his loyal gang of thugs are waging a bloody war against their oppressors. However, Blazkowicz and his team cannot do everything alone, so they recruit a group of revolutionaries and plot a plan that takes them from the ruins of New York to the ghettos of New Orleans, even to BJ's hometown in Mesquite, Texas, and beyond. 4. Doom, 1993. Without the original Doom, this list would not even exist. He is everyone's grandfather, being so revolutionary in 1993 that he created a series of imitators that were called Doom clones, and also continues to inspire modern games. We recently reviewed the origins and history of ID Software, very interesting, in case you want to take a look. But leaving aside the historical importance, it is still fun like, forgive us, hell. It's fast, frantic, controlled like a dream and, despite not being in 3D for real, it has an incredible atmosphere with a soundtrack that remains instantly recognizable. Doom stood out for having one of the best weapons collections ever wielded in a first-person shooter game, but is equally revered for its level design, which combines mazes and demonic images to create maps that remain pleasant and full of secrets. To this day. 3. Half-Life, Alyx. No, it's not Half-Life 3, and yes, it's just virtual reality, but Half-Life, Alyx is even better for both. Alyx resurrects one of the largest and most revered franchises in games and fuses the design of virtual reality games with the magnificent Source 2.0 game engine and room-scale interaction to create a slower but more intimate and frightening half-life experience. The way guns fire and reload is designed specifically for virtual reality in a way impossible to recreate on a 2D screen. So are riddles. So are combat encounters. It's really the arrival that virtual reality games were waiting for, and then there's their story. The less it is said, the better, because when you reach the end you will face one of the best moments in the history of video games. But what you learn along the way is also completely fascinating, and shows that Valve has not lost its weight in storytelling since Half-Life 2. Simply put, Half-Life, Alyx is a worthy return for Half-Life and becomes the pinnacle of virtual reality games so far. Alyx is both a modern masterpiece and the virtual reality game that we have been waiting for all our lives. 2. Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 has one of the best FPS campaigns ever and was very well received after the first Titanfall lacked any kind of single-player story. It is set in the universe that created the original game, but it is captivating on its own. Following the pilot Jack Cooper and his Titan, BT, the Titanfall 2 campaign is relatively short with a record of between 5 and 7 hours, but Respawn makes the best use of that brief window that we have ever seen. Each chapter of the campaign seems to surpass the previous one, as Titanfall 2 constantly tests your temper and finds new ways to mix its excellent shooting and movement mechanics. He feels so many surprises that we better shut up. Suffice it to say that it is an excellent example of an FPS campaign of unquestionable quality and we should remember it forever. 1. Half-Life 2. At the top of our list is a game that not only changed the way we understand FPS campaigns, but also the way we interact with video games in general. Half-Life 2 and its episodic expansions were revolutionary at the time, and still are today. From the oppressive atmosphere of City 17 to physics riddles that defy gravity, the influence of Half-Life 2 can be perceived in countless subsequent games. But it has not earned first place solely because of its impact on the industry. In short, Half-Life 2 is very fun. The story he tells feels massive and intimate at the same time, and the encounters vary from the pure intelligent emotion to the most frightening phases. The alien weaponry you put in your hands to deal with those obstacles is satisfying and powerful, particularly the iconic gravity gun, a weapon so great that we still wish it was in almost every shooting game we have played since then. Half-Life 2 is really extraordinary. It is not bug-free, like all the other games on the list, but it is one in which the experience as a whole greatly surpasses any small misstep. It's a fascinating world with ideas so intelligent that we continue to pray for more. Half-Life Alyx has given us hope and we can't wait to see where the Half-Life franchise is headed, but until then, Half-Life 2 will remain an absolute masterpiece. And so far our selection for the best FPS campaigns in the history of video games. Have you tried all of them? Any notable absences?